Welcome again, Professor Meyl, to White TV.
Hello.
We had earlier interviews where you showed us your research, potential vortex, scalar waves, unified field theory, ether, and then we looked to the practical consequences of your research, that you can describe things which everybody is bothered by, but they don't have good explanations for it. And we started in the last interview with the biological implications and findings. And now we would focus on the neutrinos. You call it a kind of neutrino power. And what we can get for information of that, astronomy, astrology.
Yes, the neutrino is a particle in physics with no charge and no mass. This is what we learned.
Yes.
So it has immense property to move through matter, through the earth, pass through the earth without effect.
They wanted to trap it and they built huge tanks and almost no result.
But, there is a result because there is a very, very small or weak interaction between the neutrino radiation and water. And this is what they use, that the water is influenced and that they are able to detect very, very weak light, photons, only single photons with photomultiplier, and then they get a result and say neutrino radiation is existing. Well, if we go back to the situation of Pauli, the Austrian physicist.
Linus?
Linus Pauling. Pauli said that the beta decay, he has calculated and controlled the beta decay, has the problem that the balance of energy is not fulfilled. And he said there is the need for one more particle, and this particle later on was called neutrino by Fermi. And Pauli is the first who was describing this. This is what we learn. But exactly, Nikola Tesla was describing particles passing through the Earth quicker than speed of light, extremely small, and well, with these properties. And he said that he was detecting and he was using this radiation as a power source. And well, at his time, the name neutrino was not born, so he was only describing these particles. He said coming from heavenly bodies and so on, is everywhere, and is power enough for the whole earth and the human beings. We don't need more power. And this is real, and it is true. He was exactly correct, Tesla, when he described this in the New York Times. And he said, I had done experiments showing that these radiation is existing. Well, when Pauli, from a very different point of view, from a scientific point of view, was only postulating these particles, everybody says, okay, this is only postulated. We don't know whether the neutrino is existing in reality, but let's work with this model just to fulfill the balance of energy and the impulse, which is not explained as well. And because we have seen that this particle, these neutrinos, are very often involved with radioactive decay. And Tesla said, if we could shield this neutrino radiation, we would have no radioactivity on the Earth. So you see by this that Tesla has found the answer very, very early.
He was always ahead of his time, the biggest genius.
Yeah, that shows him as a genius. But nobody was following his ideas. But today, if we look back, we have to say that Tesla was the developer of the neutrino radiation, not Pauli.
Interesting. Yeah.
It's interesting, yeah. Okay, well, these particles have no charge, but they are oscillating. Tesla was describing you have to go into resonance with this radiation and then you have the energy. Because they are oscillating between the property of an electron and the property of a positron. So, in my opinion, in my model, the electron is a ball vortex compressed by the potential vortex, and inside we have the opposite vortex, which is the anti-vortex, which is a positron. That means the electron has the positron in the inside, and the positron has an electron in the inside. And if you would destroy this vortex, then both would sum up to zero. So the energy is only if I have one part inside and the other outside. And well, if you think about this particle, the electron, but with more energy than the simple electron, that means this electron is turning very quick, so it is opening the center and is getting a ring system. And this ring system is turning around, is showing sometimes as an electron from outside and sometimes as a positron from outside. So it is plus, minus, plus, minus. In the average, the charge is zero. But the mean value is not zero. And the same with the mass. Mass, matter, antimatter, so the mass in the average is zero, but not the mean value of the mass. It's not. So this particle is carrying energy, is carrying impulse, and if I go into resonance, I get as well electric charge and matter. So this is a very important particle, and we know
it's vital. It's vital.
What vital? What?
Without we can't exist.
Yes. First of all, they said it doesn't exist, but later on, that was in 1959, I think, when these neutrino, the first time, had been measured and had been proved that it is existing in reality. And but most of the physicists didn't change their opinion. They never changed their opinion. We know this. And they said, okay, this is only a model. We don't have to think about this because it's not, in reality it's not existing. For them it's not existing. So these three scientists showing that it is existing, they were outlaws in science. So, but they got,
as you are today.
yeah, but they got the Nobel Prize.
And they got it.
Yeah, they got it. But later in 2002, so they have to wait for a very long time.
Poor boys.
Yeah, poor boys. Only one of them. The others were dead. Okay, and you see, then we would say everything has changed, but nothing has changed at all. We had the neutrino radiation, and the scientists, they started learning more about it. But they have forgotten that there was one before, Tesla, who has described all properties of these particles perfectly, and well, they could learn a lot of Tesla. But if they don't read, nobody will help them. This is what I explained to my colleague at the KIT, the Karlsruhe Institute of Technology. from, you know, that had been the Kernforschungszentrum Karlsruhe before, and that means the Institute of Kernforschung, that is nuclear research, that's it. The colleague had no idea about this, have never seen the text of Tesla. I have sent him these information from 1900. Yeah?
And he did not even
never realized that there was one before. So you see, if scientists do not read, well, they have to renew and to develop the wheel a second time. Okay, well, these neutrino signs slowly develop, and they have found out that in water they are able to detect it, because if these particles are changing from an electron to a positron, if it is a positron, the positron we know is interacting with matter and is producing light. We get a light, we get a photon, we are able to detect, and this is what these big detectors are using today. And another possibility is that they remain as an electron, and then they are cracking water. This is electrolysis.
Ah, yeah.
And then it's oxygen and hydrogen is produced. But this is very, very few, and it is very difficult to detect this production. This is why they only measure the light. Well, first they started with a Galax experiment in Italy, in this in this tunnel. Mm-hmm. This was a very special experiment. They were using gallium liquid, and when a neutrino is interacting with gallium chloride, then germanium. It is a change into germanium, but it is an isotope, and this is falling back into gallium by a radioactive reaction, and this is able to be detected. So this is not a direct, an indirect measurement device for a neutrino radiation. This is what they were using in Italy. And the next was in Kamiokande detector in Japan, an international laboratory they had in a mountain, so that it is like in Italy, 1,000 meters of granite above, so there is no chance for other radiations to get into this laboratory. And they have measured in a different way, and at the end these results were differing enormously. They have detected about 10 times more in Italy than even more in Italy than in Kamiokande, and nobody knows. But this Kamiokande detector has got the Nobel Prize 2002. So you don't need to be correct if you want a Nobel Prize. You only have to use a lot of money. This is the only, yes. Nobody was able to give an answer to this difference. I can tell you the difference is that our environment is existing from matter, not from antimatter. We are a world of matter.
Yeah.
And in this world of matter, the reaction of a neutrino most of the time is producing matter. And if it is producing matter, that means if it remains as an electron, it is producing oxygen and hydrogen. And this, or in the experiment of the Galix experiment, there is producing these germanium. So they were using the electron, but it is about more than 90% is producing electrons. Only less than 10%, about 3% I think it was, is producing antimatter, which is producing light. So these experiments were different, and so the difference was between 3% and 90%. So you understand that this difference was so big that it was more than only a small mistake. It was totally different, and nobody knows. But this detector had been honored. Okay, the next problem was that they have measured on daytime twice of the neutrino from the sun than at nighttime. That means that the neutrino radiation from the sun is interacting with the Earth or with the core of the Earth. It's not allowed to do this because the weak interaction doesn't allow it. So the neutrino radiation is doing something which is not allowed. Or with other words, we have to renew all our books. Have you seen that they have renewed books? No, I not. Neither. So this is necessary. Well, now they are discussing what happens. Well, this is not important. Important is the interaction. Has the neutrino changed its size or its property into another neutrino that could not be detected, or had it been absorbed? Or this is what they discuss. But forget it. The main factor is that it's not allowed.
Yeah.
And the interaction is much bigger. And this is the main point. Well, I have the opinion that it is absorbed, that the neutrino is remaining in the center of the Earth. So the Earth is growing, and at the end, because there's something getting into the Earth, remaining there, and is producing heat and so on. So it's explaining a lot of properties of the Earth, which we have no answer till today. Mm-hmm. Well, let's explain how it is interacting with the Earth. I think this is.
You have an idea about it?
Yeah, I have an idea. Well, we are using models only in physics. It's standard that we are using models, and it's always a question which model is the best one.
But you have not calculated on it.
A bit. But I can't calculate everything. But I think it's allowed to think about it.
Of course.
to use your brain.
Yeah.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
The first question is, what is your weight in the center of the Earth?
Nothing.
Nothing. Zero. Yeah. It is. Jules Verne is talking about this. But I think he hasn't been there. He was only writing about it. Well, you see, if we look in the field, we know that this is the surface of the Earth, and this is solid matter. It is the crust, very thin, 70 kilometers or so, very thin. This is the crust we're living on. So this is solid matter. On this solid matter, we have the liquids. because the liquids are have not the same density, less density, so they fill all the holes and so on. And we know there are the liquids. Outside the liquids, we have the air, which is gas. The gas, because the gas is less dense, and outside the gas we have the ionosphere. Mm-hmm. The ionosphere is something like a plasma. Mm-hmm. And outside the ionosphere there is the space, and there's zero. There is we know this by these experiments. They have no weight. They are in the space. It's zero. Okay. You told me that in the center of the Earth, and I agree with you, my weight is zero. So this is the same situation then in space. Mm-hmm. And you see, if I put solid matter, liquids, gas, plasma into a ball, it will separate each other. And so inside, if I want to reach this situation that my weight is zero, that I have the situation of space in the center, I need the same conditions or yes, inside the Earth. So inside the crust there is the liquid. We know this because this is the mantle, the Earth mantle of the Earth.
Magma coming out on volcanoes.
Yeah, magma is coming out. We know that it is liquid. Mm-hmm. It is moving and so on, and okay, liquid. Then we come to the core. The core is existing from an inner core and an outer core. So if I agree with you, I have to agree that inside the liquid we need to have gas, as this is the outer core, and in the inner core has to be plasma, if I want to reach my weight zero in the center. Mm-hmm. So I have explained that the core of the Earth is consisting of gas and plasma. Well, under high pressure. I accept this. Under very high pressure. So we are not able to reproduce the same gas here on the surface in our laboratory. It's impossible because we can't produce this pressure. Mm-hmm. It's such a high pressure that it is, metal-like. Because what we learned at school is that it is existing from iron. Mm-hmm. That's what you learned as well. This nonsense everybody is learning, mm-hmm. I as well. So it's absolutely 100% nonsense. Because it has nothing to do with iron. Some teachers tell us that this iron is the cause why we have the magnetic field, and the nonsense gets a maximum if they tell us that the Earth is the core is very hot, because we know that at 1,000 degrees Celsius the iron is losing the magnetic properties. So this is absolutely nonsense what we learn. 100% has nothing to do with science. We have gas and plasma under high pressure, and what we accept and what is correct is that we have all the weight inside this core. The core is so heavy that it has the weight of iron. This is why we have learned this. It is the weight of iron, but has nothing to do with iron. Okay, now we need a model, mm-hmm. which is explaining this.
Yes.
And which has to do or has to interact.
Sorry.
I see it.
To the camera.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
you have to close everything. Okay.
Yeah.
No.
That's the consequences if there is no.
Okay.
Yeah, that's better.
Now it looks like we are now inside the Earth. in the core of the Earth,
Yeah.
under high pressure.
Yeah, this
Okay.
information is giving high pressure to the brain.
Well, the question is, what does it consist from? What matter do we have inside this core? How is this gas under high pressure, and how is it interacting with neutrino radiation? And we have seen by the experiments that it is interacting. So what we have learned by Pauli is that the neutron decay, which we call beta decay, this beta decay is influenced by neutrinos. And the neutrino which is coming, well, in science they sometimes call about antineutrino, but forget it. The neutrino is changing from matter to antimatter all the time. So antimatter is only a wrong description. You have to put it on the other side. So the neutron plus neutrino, if they are coming together, if this oscillating particle is meeting not a non-oscillating particle which has only a charge distribution. So it is interacting with this charge distribution and is moving this neutron till it is decaying. And on the other side we have the result, which is a proton and electron. And a proton and electron is producing a hydrogen gas. So what has happened? Let's think about, we have in the inner core, we have neutrons. Neutrons, we know from a neutron star, existing of a lot of neutrons, are very heavy and need no space. So this is explaining why the core of the Earth is so heavy. But now the neutrons and the neutrinos are coming, and they act with them, they interact, and some of the neutrons are decaying and are producing gas, hydrogen gas. This gas is under high pressure, needs a lot of space, and has nearly no weight. Forget it. So we have a mixture in the inner core of this very, very light gas and the heavy neutrons. And this mixture, well, this is a constant mixture, because I have to accept that if there is a vortex, all vortices you see, if one vortex is decaying, if you have an expanding effect, energy is coming out of this expanding system. And if on the other side this gas is under high pressure and the electron could be pushed into the positron, then it is a contracting effect. And you need, for the contracting effect, you need the energy from the decaying neighbor. So if one neutron is decaying, it is producing the energy for the neighbor gas atom, which is collapsing to a neutron. So we have this movement which is on a constant level. We always have the same number of neutrons and gas, and the mixture in the average has the weight of iron. So this is explaining how the inner core is existing from, is described with this model. And the outer core, now some effects occur, that we not only have the interaction with neutrinos, but as well the production of protons and others, so that all the elements we need are produced in the core of the earth. In the mantle, in the liquid mantle, all the chemical reactions happen. Well, let's have a look at the temperature. You see that if I have a decay, energy is coming out in the form of radiation. So this gives heat. But the neighbor, which is gas, is collapsing using the heat. So it is used at once, and there's no radiation left. So the temperature is 0 Kelvin, the absolute 0 point of temperature.
Within the Earth?
Within the Earth. In the center of the Earth we have superconductivity, conditions of superconductivity. And this is the reason for the magnetic field of the Earth, you see. And if there would be a radiation left, or temperature or something like this, the next gas atom would collapse at once. So all the gas atoms under this high pressure are collapsing if they get enough energy from the others. And the result is that the energy is nearly 0 degree. Well, the same happens in the sun, in the center of the sun. The sun is the same or maybe comparable with the outer and the inner core of the Earth. So what we see from the sun is the gas of the outer core of the Earth is comparable with the sun, what we see. And the inside from the sun, this is not visible because it's a big ball and we can't look in.
That doesn't fit to the Bethe-Weizsäcker cyclus.
Oh, it fits to it. If you look at the Bethe-Weizsäcker cyclus, you see that there is a particle used. Well, he is calling it is an anti-neutrino, but forget it. It is a neutrino. You have only to change the direction, and then you see that in this cycle, the neutrino radiation is bringing the energy, and the light is getting out, and matter is produced. So this is only one reaction which is happens in the Earth and is correct. Okay, I accept it. But others exist as well. It's not the only one. So we have a lot of reactions which happen, and in the inner part of the Earth and in the sun as well. But you see, if you watch the sun, you see that the corona of the sun has millions of degree Celsius, and if you look at the surface, you only have 3,000 degree, and if you look inside, it gets less and less and less. So in the center, it's 0, and we have to accept this. That Russian scientists have agreed with my idea here at this point. They have some measurement possibility to prove this. They said yes, the center of the sun is very cold. So fusion is a cold fusion. A hot fusion doesn't exist. Because if you have high temperature, the movement is so strong that you can't put the cores together. They never come together. Hot fusion is hypothesis, never seen before. The only possibility is the cold fusion, 100%.
Interesting.
Okay, the sun is producing cold fusion, and the Earth as well, and it happens in the core of the Earth. And then we come to the mantle where all the liquids are moving around and mixed up, and here the chemical reactions happen, and a lot of elements are produced, such as water. So there is water coming from inside.
And oil?
Oil,
Is it right that the oil is renewing?
Yeah. And it is produced from inside.
Because some say that there is not a shortage of oil because it's filling up from the...
Yeah, so it is.
Yeah.
So if some fields are emptied and the pumps are pumping only on the air, and if you wait for longer, then we have seen in Russia that they have filled up half again, but with another quality. It's very interesting that it is coming from inside. Has nothing to do with the trees or something. These are all lies, and all these things we have learned. Forget it.
It's showing up the prices.
Yeah. That it is only reduced and is getting less and less. It's only for the prices. No. We have enough oil. The problem is to get this oil is getting more and more problem because we have to drill deeper and deeper, and so we come into regions where it is really dangerous because if we drill, you know that the oil always is swimming on top of the water. So if we drill too much, then at the end we only have oil in our oceans and no water because the oil is at the top. So this is really a danger, and we have to pay attention. Also, you see in Arabia, in the Arabian countries, it was very easy to drill for the oil because it was very close to the surface and very good quality. But if they have emptied their fields, it will take for thousands of years till it is filling up again. But if we think about the crust of the Earth, which is the thickest at the equator, and the smallest at the poles, because of the rotating Earth. So it is clear that it is the easiest to drill at the poles. That if you ask me where is the oil in the future coming from Alaska, from Norway, from Russia, south, well, there is a continent which is very thick. At the South Pole, the continent is very thick. Yeah, and this is why I think we have no chance to drill over there. But I think they will start as well. They drill everywhere. It's horrible. Because we need oil for our cars and.
But we could take neutrino power.
Yes, this is interesting that this particle, because Pauli said, this particle is transporting the energy we need for the beta decay, and if we are able to use it for the beta decay, we are able to use it as well for our energy
purposes,
purposes. So it is not very easy. It is a bit difficult because the frequency is very high, higher than our semiconductors are available. Well, I think if we want to use the neutrino radiation in a direct way, as Tesla wanted to do, I think this is not possible, not to use it in that amount we need it. It will be really a very difficult problem to solve, and
because sometimes we get too much and then it's exploding.
Yeah, well, it is changing a bit, but we have it on daytime and nighttime. It's always better to use this non-visible part of radiation from the sun, which is 98%, than the 1 or 2% of the visible with the solar panels. And forget it, because these solar panels have so little energy. This non-visible part of the sun has much more energy, much more. So this is, and it could be concentrated at one place as well. well, they try to concentrate this solar energy as well. You know, in the desert, where the Desert Tech project, they want to collect it to one point to heat up. If you concentrate the energy, it's always better and more effective than if you do not concentrate. We can do this with neutrino radiation as well. If I go into resonance with this radiation, then it is collected.
Yeah, how we do it technically to catch them, the neutrinos?
Well, we know about one device which had been very successful, which is the railgun. And the railgun was showing the most energy ever free energy device has shown.
Unity was very high.
It was very high, 20,000 about. When this system was designed, it was designed for the Star Wars, but you know that America at the end was alone, because the only partner who could follow to this Star Wars was bankrupt. It was Russia, and they said no, we don't follow you, and this is why now we still have the war in our countries and not in space, because there are still people who need this war. I don't know why, but this is reality.
Another topic,
yeah, this is reality. Okay, this Star Wars, or in this project, they developed this railgun to accelerate a projectile on very high speeds at a very short distance, and they had problems to do this in a standard way, because they would have to bring all the oil and the gas to this station for the Star Wars in the space somewhere. So they said, okay, the only energy we have is solar energy. We are using solar panels. We collect it. We charge a capacitor to high power and high voltage capacitor, and then we are using this capacitor and switch it on these two lines of like a train, and then we are producing this rail gun. That means your projectile on these rails is accelerated, and it is a standard. We call it a bridge of Ampere's bridge, standard technology. But when they started the first time, the whole rails had been destroyed. There was energy, they didn't know where it's coming from.
It was too much power.
Yeah, they could see plasma. They're producing a plasma all around the system, and everything was different from what they have calculated. And then they renewed the system with bigger and thicker rails, and then they repeated it, and they were always using a sack of sand and shoot into this and could measure the movement of the sack, and then they found out this fantastic efficiency. And this system, no explanation is existing. The first was that the engineers, when this Star Wars was given up and stopped, then the engineer said, we have no idea, let's put it into internet and let's discuss it with the universities. And they have done this, and we have got all the information from internet, such as other universities, and the other universities who have tried to reproduce it were not successful. So they well, they had not the funds. They have tried to reduce the size in a smaller size. But you see, this was a military size, 9 meters and plasma and everything. And now they try to produce small tabletop versions of it. It was impossible. It doesn't work. And well, the main thing is militaries have not understood the system, and the professors and colleagues from universities neither. Well, I have an explanation. I explained it in that way that I said, well, what is accelerating this projectile is are the currents, the current that is flowing from one rail to the other and back again to this high voltage capacitor. And these currents are accelerating. This is standard physics. But when you use this, you get a dipole which is one side positive, one negative, and you are polarizing the environment. And all the neutrino radiation, which have the correct, that means the opposite polarity, are collected on one and the others on the other side. And these neutrinos are passing through this stick and are helping by these acceleration. And they are helping as well by the polarization. So they are collecting much more neutrino radiation, and they are pulling more and polarizing more, and so this is
swinging
up system, and at the end you always have the crash. But you see these rails end at a special point. And when they end, well, this acceleration effect ends as well. So this was the positive news that everything stops by itself because it ends. So.
But otherwise, I wrote in your book that you can catch the neutrinos with Tesla coils.
Yes, with Tesla coils is another possibility, but the Tesla coils I'm using there is nothing available because I'm using short waves. You know that my system is constructed for short waves, and short waves are the worst situation, the most worst situation we are able to think about, because we know that the ionosphere is acting as a mirror for these short waves. This was Marconi using when he was sending his signal to America. His signal was reflected by the ionosphere, and therefore he was able to reach such a long distance for his first radio signal. Well, radio amateurs here in all over the world discussing together, these specialists, they know about these properties. But if the ionosphere is like a mirror, all the radiation from space, from sun and others, are reflected back to space as well. So we have, on Earth, we have nearly no radiation from space. Especially in short waves, which go from 3 megahertz to 30 megahertz. In this field, we have nearly no chance to get energy from the environment.
But anyhow, even your kit is having an over-unity effect.
Yes, if it has, if some experimenters reach a over-unity effect, then I'm absolutely sure that this energy is coming from a technical device. Yeah, Nikola Tesla was using long waves at frequencies between 100 kilohertz and maximum 500 kilohertz, lower than short waves. So he was able to collect energy from space.
Or neutrinos.
Well, from space, I say. Or if you are using higher frequencies, microwave frequencies perhaps, then the window to space is open again. Well, I explained to you that whether these are neutrinos or not has to do with the speed of the signals. That means at the speed of light we have the distances lambda, this is the wavelengths divided by 2p, which is very narrow to the antenna. If we have speeds more than the speed of light, the distance is getting more and more stable, the vortices get. So I talk about Tesla radiation because I think that this was about the radiation he was using, not at all neutrino radiation, but this special Tesla radiation. If we reach the golden cut, which is 1.62 times the speed of light, then from that point on the vortices remain stable. And then I call them neutrino radiation. So it's a bit different. Neutrino radiation is coming from the sun. Is passing the Earth. Part of it is interacting. But this property needs a very high speed, much more than the speed of light, 2 times, 3 times, or even more than the speed of light. Well, I don't know exactly what Tesla has reached, because he was writing about interesting things that he could have been very successful, but I'm not able to reproduce his experiment one-to-one. And as long as I can't do this, I can't tell you exactly what he was using. But it goes in this direction. That, anyway, is correct. And he wanted to use his system for power supply wirelessly all over the world. Because he said you have less losses than with the 3-phase system we have today.
Is this comparable to the vacuum energy Tom Bearden is talking about?
Well, I know about these models of vacuum field energy and so on, but you see, I don't like this. I don't need it as well, because if I have a vacuum, I have no particles, and energy in my model always is linked up to matter. So as long as I have no vortex, if I have no matter, I have no energy. Vacuum energy is a perpetuum mobile energy, in my opinion, and not existing. Forget it. The same as 0 point energy. It's nonsense. Absolute.
But aren't they only thinking about the case that in the electromagnetic wave they are meeting together at the 0 point, but the energy is not disappearing, because energy never disappears, but changing form?
Yeah, I don't agree with these models. I don't need them. My model is much better and explaining very exact the energy situation, because I say energy is reached if I have closed one system, one ball vortex, and I have one part of the energy inside and the other outside. This gives an energy situation as long as this vortex is existing. This is exactly what my description is, and this means that I don't try to find energy from the vacuum or from 0 point. The only thing I want is energy from particles. So there is still the possibility, in a theoretical way, that we think about the production of vortices. If we produce electrons in a machine, we are producing energy.
Do you have a practical solution you can offer how we can build a device to get rid of electricity and atomic energy and oil?
Yes, well, I would use the neutrino radiation first, because I know this is coming from the sun. It is enough for the whole world, what we need, and energy support. So I think this is the best solution, but the problem is how to interact with this neutrino radiation at very high frequencies and so on. Tesla was using spark gaps. Well, this is not the technology of today, but it was possible at his time, and he was perfect in using these systems. I'm not. I think more in the direction to use water, because we know that water is interacting with the neutrino radiation. So you haven't built a device? No, we have not built. No, well, I have, yes, I have some ideas how to do this, to concentrate them in a water bottle, and there to use the neutrinolyzer, I call it. It's like an electrolysis or photolysis, but with neutrino radiation. And that neutrino is doing this. We know this. We accept this. But the problem is how to optimize it, to concentrate this radiation to one point, to a small bottle with water. And well, I know they are oscillating. I need an oscillator which is interacting with them, and then I'm able to concentrate it. So this could be a possibility. I have not tried it. I've not produced it, but I think there are some possibilities in this direction.
Yes, and then you found out and even predicted that neutrinos can use trouble on Earth in a solar eclipse.
Well, the solar eclipse is a special situation that the moon is just in between, in the transition between sun and Earth. And well, we know that the neutrino radiation is passing the moon or the Earth, not 100%, but nearly, because only the weak neutrinos are influenced more and more. But if we look at these heavenly bodies of moon and Earth, for the neutrino radiation, they are as balls of glass. If we compare it with the optic, then we have lenses. That means if this radiation is passing the moon, it is influenced a bit, only a bit. That means it is changing the direction and is concentrating behind this lens.
Is that similar to this research 1919 to establish Einstein's relativity theory when they measured the light is deviating?
Well, this is that the light was changing the direction, but we explain this by the fields of this of the sun, perhaps, or of this heavenly body. That the fields are influencing the space all around this everybody. So that the space is changing by, this is what I talk about. Yeah. At this point they have agreed this law, on other points they do not, you know, understand. So this is always the same problem. Okay, but let's go back to my system, which is very different. This is only a picture because it has to do with light. Now we speak about neutrino radiation. Mm-hmm. And the neutrino radiation is passing as if it is like a ball of glass. And so it is changing the direction, this radiation, and is collecting to one special point. This point has to do with the speed of the neutrinos. Those neutrinos who are slower, they have this concentration point next to the moon. Those who are quicker have this point at a longer distance. Those who are very quick have this point far behind the Earth. But there are some who exactly concentrate at the Earth, on the surface of the Earth, in the situation of the solar eclipse. If you have the shadow of the moon moving along the Earth, in the center of this shadow you have the concentration effect of the neutrino radiation. Mm-hmm. So this could have an effect. Nowadays the neutrino radiation is very, very well few. We don't have the situation we have had 600 or 800 years before.
But you predicted recently an earthquake, and even mainstream media in Germany took it up.
Yes, but you see, the question is, what is the influence to the human being? What is the influence to the Earth? So we interact very different. Mm. The source of the neutrino radiation is a black hole, I told you. But the black hole of our galaxy is far away. Mm. So this radiation is very weak. Mm. But we have the chance that we have a supernova next to us. Perhaps, let me say, 300 light years away. What does it mean? If there is a supernova, if a star suddenly stops turning because the last planet has left the system and is taking the impulse with him, so there is no balance for the impulse. The star stops turning, and then by we call it gravitational force, it is collapsing. That means the matter is accelerated more and more and more, getting speed of light, is getting more than speed of light, is changing into a neutrino, and is 80% of the star or even more is thrown out as neutrino radiation. And it is a mixture of slow and very fast neutrinos. And what happens if this in one, let me say 500 light years away, it happens? Then first the very quick, that means the very strong radiation is reaching the sun and then the Earth.
Neutrinos.
Of neutrinos. Mm-hmm. So the quickest. Mm-hmm. And this
before the light is coming.
Yeah, well, if the light is coming, everything happens. There's no neutrino left. Yes, when we see it, so quicker, yes. So at the end of the Middle Ages, in 1500, in that year, we could observe 3 very, very strong supernova explosions from the Earth. One happens in the Orion picture, and still today you are able to see where it happens, and the white star, which is the rest of the star, is able to be observed, and this very strong supernova was so strong that we had two suns. At daytime, could see two suns, and for 1 week. So this is described by Tycho Brahe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Danish astronomer.
Yeah, astronomer. And others have described maybe the same or others, but these supernova explosions were influencing the world in the time before. So that means first of all we have the influence only to the core of the earth, not to the human beings, not to the nature. Only the cores interact. When it gets weaker and weaker, then it's changing slowly. The next will be that the atomic plants, the waste of the atomic plants will get active again. It's not good, no good time. No good. No. Very dangerous. Then the next will be that if it's given even slower, then we have interactions to volcanoes and to activity of earthquakes and so on. And then it's touching and influencing the human being. So in the Middle Ages we know that they had been very small, the people, not very old, 30 years old, that was all, and they were so influenced by this radiation that they really had been crazy. There has been no signs.
Could have been a neutrino shower from a supernova.
Yeah, that was influencing us in that way. And when we have a radioactive fallout everywhere on the Earth. But if there is a solar eclipse with this maximum in the center, running along the fields with fruit maybe, then this radioactivity is destroying these fruits. If you eat them, you get ill, because you eat all this radioactivity. And that was the reason why Europe, center of Europe, Germany and France is separated in 3 parts. Do you know? Because it had been together under Karl the Great.
Oh yeah.
And the son was the son of Karl the Great, or Charles the Great, was Ludwig der Fromme. He was called, and he had the whole region. But he was eating from fruits in his time, together with the whole stuff. They all eat the same fruit, maybe a salad or so, I don't know, from a field where this solar eclipse was passing, and they all died. In a very short time, they all had been dead. They didn't know what happens. Maybe as well to the water they were drinking and so on. They had no measurement devices to control it. And this gives to the people these pictures that a solar eclipse is so dangerous. But nowadays we don't have this weak neutrino radiation which is able to influence these plants. But there is an influence in this solar eclipse from 1999.
Yeah.
1999, they were measuring in the hospital in Donaueschingen, not far from the the center. They were measuring an influence that it was going down and up again of the, because they are measuring the radioactivity all the time. And they could see the influence of the eclipse in their measurements. So this is really existing. It has an influence. You know that some animals know before of the eclipse that something happens, and they are very calm and so on. And what they feel is they feel the radiation and the change of the radiation.
The neutrino.
Yeah.
Which is a kind of scalar wave.
Yeah. No, all the particles are moving as scalar waves. So this is
all the particles.
All particles in physics are moving as a scalar wave, as a longitudinal wave, because one is pushing the next and so on. The neutrinos do the same. Because I want to develop this neutrino radiation is because I'm working with these scalar waves. The scalar wave model is necessary if you want these devices. This is why I do this job. Okay. I talked about Karl the Great. When suddenly his son was dying, then they have to separate this big part, and you know that we have had France, Germany, and in between this had been the best part, Lothringen, Elsass-Lothringen, from Holland, Belgium, of today, Alsace, which had been German, and then France and German, and now it's French again, and Switzerland, till to Italy. So this was the center, today we have a lot of small states and languages and so on. Interesting. You see that this is a consequence of a solar eclipse. Interesting. Okay.
Or the supernova.
Yes, of the supernova and the solar eclipse, which has concentrated it and was killing the people who were eating these fruits. And today we have the tourists who run to this eclipse and looking at the sun. Well, this will change. I don't know when, but because nowadays we have a perfect situation when this solar eclipse or when this supernova was observed. We had a new situation. Suddenly, science was developed, and all the technologies we have today, they started when this eclipse was over. Or this supernova was over. So you see what an influence we have from our environment. It's enormous.
This is close to the explanation how astrology is working, because in former times astronomy and astrology had been one science in Egypt and so on, Arabic countries, and then the Roman Catholic Church split it up, used it in secret. See. But you have a very good explanation how it is working physically. Astrology.
Yes, it's because the radiation, neutrino radiation from the sun, is reduced in speed, and the other planets are using this, and so we have resonances between the sun and the planets, the Earth and the other planets. And one has a resonance with the other, and if the Earth is turning and if we are moving all around the sun, we have a change of radiation all time, all day long, because we are turning around. And so we have an influence of these radiations to the plants, to the people, to those who are born in that situation. That means the baby that is changing from the support from mother to the own support. That has to do with the energy of the cells. Because
in the aura?
No. The energy of the cells well, the cells need energy and information. And if the situation of the radiation is changing, we know that it is changing, especially with supernova and other effects, then the newborn child has to tune his cells to the energy which is available. And it is doing this at this time when it is just born. Then it is tuning it, because it is not changing this tuned effect the whole life. The whole life is very short. The effects, heavenly effects, are very, very longer terms, and in such a short period, it is not changing so much, so that we can use this turned tuned energy for the rest of the life. And this is why the situation when they are born is so particular and is forming our soul and our person the whole life. But it has to do with the resonance of the cells. That the cells are looking, where is the resonance at this situation, and this is what they're using.
Very interesting.
So this is how to explain in a physical way these very old effects and knowledge experiences. But we know that the astronomy is going just an opposite way, a different way, that they try to bring the observer out of the system, to look from outside to how the movement of the heavenly bodies is. And it's very difficult to calculate from one standpoint to the other standpoint, because the movement of the earth, of an observer like us who is standing on the earth, turning with the earth, and the earth is moving around the sun. So this is a very complex movement at the end, and to calculate from this observer on the earth to the one who is outside, somewhere in the space, looking from outside what happens, is very complicated, and I think the Ptolemaios has tried to do this. He was not understood at all, because they don't wanted to understand him. The church wanted to have the earth in the center of the universe, and Ptolemaios was doing just this job to tell them what is observed if I'm the observer on the surface of the earth. The astronomy today does not explain this at all, because it's not their question. They try to calculate this out and to calculate from outside. Well, it's a different side, but I hope in the result, if you compare it, there are a lot of things which are nearly the same.
And you found very interesting answers to questions about anomalies to galaxies. You say that they should, in the outside of the galaxy, have another speed than usual science is saying.
Yeah, yes. Well, we have Kepler's law. Kepler's law says that if you have a planet next to the sun, the planet needs to be much quicker, because the gravitational force is higher, and you need more inertial force for the balance, and this is why you need this high speed. And the longer the way is, the bigger the distance is to the sun, the slower they are. So the sun, the Earth needs 1 year, Jupiter needs 11 years.
And Mercurius only 70 days or what it was. Yeah.
So, and if we look at the whole galaxy, we see the galaxy looks like a vortex, a spiral vortex turning around, but is not changing the form. So it is these arms of the vortex have just the same size, same situation, look like the same by turning. That means that the stars next to the center are much slower than those who are far away. This is just the opposite. It's the opposite of what Kepler's laws allow. So what we have found out is that the whole galaxy, the Milky Way, is contradict to the Kepler's law. Exactly the opposite. And this gives really big problems to astronomy scientists. And then they considered what is the reason, and they said, okay, if we first of all they said if we think about a string, something like a string from such a star to the center, a big string, because you know what the inertial power of these stars far away are, and this string is not observable. We can't see it, so it is a not visible string. Forget it.
Is it part of the string theory?
Yes, it's a string theory. And then they had put special properties to the strings, also super strings, and forget it. It was the first idea about this. Then they said the only power we know about interaction, which could be possible, because the electromagnetic interaction we could measure, and we can say it is no electromagnetic interaction. But we know is the gravitational force. Let's fill up the whole galaxy with dark matter. Let's fill it up so we have interaction, gravitational interaction, from the sun to the next star, to the next dark matter, from that dark matter to the next dark matter, to the next. If you have a box filled up or a round box filled up with balls, and you turn it, you have just this effect, that those who are far away are quicker than in the center, because nobody is able to move in this situation, because it's all filled up. But the problem is that we see only the stars and the sun, but we don't see that matter, that postulated matter in between. In this transition, where is it? So this is only postulated, and this dark matter is a model. They try to explain why this system is doing just the opposite. Yeah. I explain it in a very, very elegant way. Well, first of all, the gravitational force in my description is not existing, because I explained that the Earth is running around the sun because the field of the sun is influencing the meter and meter per second as well. So the speed on the sunny side of the Earth is slower than on the night side, and this gives this direction. So only the field is producing this influence, and there's no force. So the question is, what are these fields from the sun existing from? Well, we have electric fields or magnetic fields or nothing. That's all. That means we have to look very close at these fields. First we have to find out what interactions do we have. We have the electromagnetic interaction when in the situation when you have positive charge, a negative charge, and you have this field line from plus to minus. This gives an electric interaction. Or from North Pole to South Pole. That gives a magnetic interaction. This is what we know. But these field lines are open field lines. Open field lines means that these field lines start at the one end and end at the other. So they are open, and I'm able to detect them because I'm able to put a measurement device in between and to let one field line end in my measurement device, and then I see, okay, this is electric or magnetic. But if I have an electric field line, I as well know that the magnetic field line is existing. It is forming a vortex all around the electric one because it's perpendicular to it. So it's forming a vortex. And this closed loop field lines, they have an effect as well, because if one heavenly body is in these closed loop field lines of the other one, it is reducing the sizes and the distances, and the effect is that one is moving towards the other. So this is what we call gravitational force. So the gravitational force is the effect of the closed loop field lines. Mm-hmm. The open field lines give the electric or magnetic, and the closed loop give the gravitational force. Then this is what we have to accept first. Well, we are able to compare both, and this may be calculated. I have calculated this. That if I'm using a particle which has mass and a particle that has a charge, what is the force of the electric field lines, because they are bundling up at the receiver. So they are as they are collected, they are very strong. And this interaction is much stronger than the gravitational force, which is not collected. And the difference is very big. If you take an electron which has an electric interaction, and you are calculating the force as a Coulomb force, mm-hmm. and if you compare this Coulomb force with the gravitational force, which may be calculated by the mass of the electron, the same particle with the same size but only a different force, then you find out that the electric force is 10, what is the exponent? I think 30, I have it in my book, it's calculated, 30, more than 30 is the exponent, 10 with 30 zeros. Higher, bigger than the force of the gravitational force. If we look at the solar system, we know that the solar system, with the sun in the center, ends at this ring system, which is the end of the solar system. Till this ring space, or ring all we call it, in this region of the sun, everything is controlled, and there's no dust and so on, because everything is clean. The gravitational force is controlling everything. But outside this, there is no gravitational force which has a real substance effect. The effect is nearly zero, we can say. Well, the same we are able to observe with the whole Milky Way. The Milky Way has a distance from one end to the other, with a black hole in the center, and we can see, because only those stars who are shining are belonging to our Milky Way. So we know how big it is, and the exponent, that means the relation, I just have calculated for the electron, for a very small particle, is the same relation between the size of the galaxy to the size of the sun.
Which shows that everything is a hologram. The little one is in the big one.
I'm not the one who is speculating in that way. I only say this is the same relation. That means that the force, or the interaction which is holding the whole galaxy together, has to be an electromagnetic interaction. If the sun solar system is connected by, or held together by the gravitational force, then the whole system has to be something like the electromagnetic interaction. But we know that we are not able to measure any electric or magnetic interaction. What is it? Well, now the solution is the following. Normally we look at the interaction only as a static interaction. But static is the same as dynamic, that means oscillating, with the frequency 0. It's only a special case. So the physics of today is using only the description of a special case for the gravitational force and for the electromagnetic as well. This is only a special case. The gravitational force, gravitation is the case of levitation at the frequency 0. So levitation is the normal system, but there is no force because it is oscillating and the average is 0, you see. So you have no weight, you are flying everywhere. This is levitation, what we call levitation. That means if you have levitation at the special case, that means the frequency 0, you get gravitation. And gravitation is transporting matter, interacting with matter. So let's go to the same on the other side. That means electromagnetic interaction. Electric interaction is interacting with electrons, with charge carriers, as we know. So we are able to measure this. But it's a special case. It's a special case with a frequency 0. What about if the frequency is not 0? Then we get an oscillating interaction. So it is oscillating, the average is 0, but it is oscillating. That means only those heavenly bodies who go into resonance with each other have a chance to use this interaction. And this oscillating interaction is reacting and interacting with neutrino radiation, because they are oscillating as well. So what do we have? We have a transmitter in the center, which is a black hole, transmitting neutrino radiation. That means if this center is positive, all neutrinos who are at that time positive have the same charge, so they are moving away, and they are spread into space. And if there are stars who have at the same time the negative charge, they are collecting. Mm-hmm. So if we have resonance between the black hole or the neutrino radiation here and the stars, then we get an interaction between both. Interaction means that neutrino radiation is transported, mm-hmm. and it is an electromagnetic interaction, but it is this special case that we can't measure. It is these oscillating electromagnetic interaction. I call resonant interaction. And a special form of this resonant interaction is the weak interaction, what we call weak interaction. That means if such an oscillating particle, neutrino, is coming very close to another one which is not oscillating and which has only a charge distribution, then by this oscillating charge, the other one is if it's very close, is moved so quick that it is decaying. You see that these special case is very, very important, and is explaining what we call weak interaction. But weak interaction is electromagnetic interaction. I think there are some scientists who agree with me at this point at once. Because
but could you explain why the Kepler law is not working in the galaxy? Because at the outside they are very quick and in the inside they are slow.
Yeah, because a Kepler law you derive directly from Newton's law, and this is only valid for gravitational force. And here we have no gravitational force.
Because it's so big distances.
Yes, we have a long distance, but you see, this electric interaction means that it is indeed just like a string, because this string exists from neutrinos.
But why aren't the outer stars flying away from the galaxy?
Oh, they go into resonance. And if they go into resonance, they have no chance to fly away, because
resonance with who?
With the black hole. And the neutrinos are running in that direction. They are using the neutrinos for shining and for growing and
when they go in resonance, they are using scalar waves.
Mm-hmm.
And that means it could be a living system.
Yes, the whole galaxy is a living system, and is always moving and changing energy from one to the next.
Very interesting.
Yeah. So this is explaining exactly what is the problem of today, you see. So this is really very perfect. Well, these models, they have developed like strings, superstrings, black matter, and so. If you explain all these things by the neutrino radiation, then it fits together. So there could be a bridge between the ideas they have nowadays and the ideas I have. There could be a bridge, and I hope that a lot of scientists are using this bridge.
Are there other practical consequences, implications from your research we have not spoken about today?
Well, there is an influence. The German TV ZDF has produced this film. Well, what happens? What the background is that I was talking about neutrino power and the interaction with other stars and and so on, and the resonant interaction and all these things. I talked about that, and in this paper from Spiegel, from this German magazine, they had an article about my research, and the headline was "Copernicus from the Black Forest." So this article was controversial, but doesn't matter. A colleague in Berlin got this, could read it, and said, "Oh, there is a physicist, who is able to explain why the Earth is growing."
And that is so. I didn't know.
Yes, he is a geologist, and he is a specialist in this field. And what I didn't know was that at this time they still had groups were existing, scientific groups, discussing this problem, because they have measured from space that the Earth is growing indeed. They could measure everything, how many meters in which region and so on, from satellites, yes, from space shuttle, and they could produce a very exact map of the Earth, showing where parts of the Earth are separating, and others they said they would have subduction, and they have control. There's subduction, and on the other side they are separating, and they were signing how much it is. So if you add all these spreading parts and minus the subduction, which is normally 0 because it doesn't exist, forget it, then you get 19 centimeters in the circumference of the Earth. 19, nearly 20, nearly 20 centimeters. This is per year what the Earth is growing.
Is it constantly growing?
No, sometimes more, sometimes less. It's an average, and sometimes it's more in the Atlantic Ocean, sometimes more in the Pacific. But in the Pacific itself, we have 13 centimeters only in the Pacific. Yeah. So this is really a maximum of 15. Maximum 15 centimeters. Maximum. So, but it is changing a bit, and it's interesting to see where we have these zones where new magma is coming out, like we know from the Middle Atlantic Ridge, where it is coming out, and we know that there always new matter is produced. And if you look back, if you look how old the crust of the Earth is, we know that the oldest crust is where the people are living today, that is other continents, and the crust of the ocean is very, very new, less than 200 million years. So this crust had been 0. This is what Wegener told us, that the Atlantic in former times had been as a puzzle fit together. So the line of England and Spain and Africa fits into North and South America.
Yes.
So this is what he has told us. But what he has forgotten is that if you look on the back, it fits together as well. So it fits together on a very small, on a ball which has only half of the diameter. Half of the diameter means that the gravitational force on the Earth was much less than today. And this is why the dinosaurs could exist. Because the dinosaurs, they had about 80 tons.
Yes.
And 80 tons is too much for the bones. They would break. But in former times, well, we know that 60 million years before, it stops. And since that time, we don't have these monsters on the Earth. And this has to do with the growing Earth, that 60 million years before, something happens, the Earth was growing by impacts or by itself, whatever, and after that period, they couldn't get up again. They were so heavy, that the period was over.
It was the neutrino radiation from the supernova.
Maybe I don't know. I can't ask them. I had a long time ago. So there are a lot of facts which show that the Earth really is growing, and now. The standard theory is ignoring it anyway, and but there are conferences. I had been on a world conference. I think it was 6,000 or 7,000 participants in Florence at the university. A big conference on geographic. And I had been there, and they have sent us with buses to a small university in the mountains called Urbino. Urbino University is very particular, nice university, nice town, very old town in the Toscana. And there we were able to discuss the growing Earth, because the big conference they ignored, you see, and they have sent us with one colleague who had to pay attention about us, that we don't do nonsense. So this is a situation of scientific nonsense today, and we were discussing the problems of the growing Earth, and well, I'm the only scientist who is able to give an explanation from the part of physics to explain what is the reason why the Earth is growing. And I tell them it's neutrino power. So they were happy, and they were bringing me and inviting me to several conferences. And the result was that the German TV, the ZDF, was producing this film. It's a documentation, 45 minutes. It was produced and shown very often. We started with the solar eclipse at 2006 it was, when I predicted an earthquake in that region where the solar eclipse. No, it was Greek, between Greek and Turkey, next to Creta, and we filmed this and with a clock, and we talked about this, and it was absolutely correct. And I still have it in my book from it was 8 years before. So I predicted this over a long time, over a long period, that there has to be an earthquake, and it happened.
On that spot.
On that spot, and it
usually
happened. Excellent.
It doesn't happen.
And the specialists say we never have had such a situation in this at this point. You see, amazing. So this is really, and it is in this film, and. Then we talked about the growing Earth as well, because if neutrino radiation has this effect and is the cause for earthquakes, then we are able to predict as well earthquakes in this way if we know more about these particles. This was the reason why we did this film, and I showed in this film as well my experiment with this boat, showing that wireless energy transmission is possible, to send from one transmitter to receiver signals and energy as well. And this is the physical proof that it could exist. So this was perfect done. The film is really perfect. As well, at the end of the film, I have a very special thing. I talk about the flood, the big flood. Yes.
Ark Noah.
Yeah. We only touch it. And well, this film was shown in ZDF in all these German transmitters from which belong to the ZDF, which is ZDF document channel. They have showed it 20 times, and Phoenix and so on. And Arte is more shown in France. So I still have a French version of Und sie bewegt sich doch, and an English one where it is called Turning the World on Its Head. So this has to do with the flood, you see, turning the world on its head, and this is as well has been shown in Russia and in Poland and so on. So, and in Arabia, I think this film is perfect for my scientific work, because it is showing only part of my work and only for those who are interested in it, not showing the physics behind. This is why I gave a lot of presentations to explain what is the physics behind. And this is one of my speeches here, Earth Expansion by Neutrino Power. It's German. But I explained it as well at several universities. For instance, in the France University in Martinique, University of what is it? Of the Caribbean University of France, Guadeloupe, Martinique, and French Guiana. So this at this university, I gave a lesson in geography about this because they have seen the film and wanted to know more about it in France.
Congratulations.
Yeah. So this I sometimes talk about this as well. It's an interesting field, and it has special consequences about the big flood. Because what I explain in this film is that nowadays the magnetic field of the Earth is nearly destroyed, is going to zero. We had very strong magnetic fields in the past. In ancient times, in ancient Greek, we had more than 1,000 times, 10,000 times more magnetic fields than today. So this power source is today is destroyed, is not existing.
Shrinking?
Well, we don't know the effects at all, but if the external fields are less, because there's no supernova explosion and so on, then we have only weak effects on the Earth. This is why we are able to use all these mobile phone devices and radiations, because there's so little radiation from the sun and from the Earth, from the space. But this will change. I know this. And if the next supernova is coming, and I predicted that it will be Betelgeuse, which will be the next one, who is still decayed, but we don't see it. But the radiation is coming.
Already have happened.
Yeah, it's not far away. It's about 300 light years away. That means 300 years we have this effects we are able to live with. But the first 100, which we have now, is only influencing the core of the Earth and earthquakes and such things. Not so dangerous. The more dangerous it will become in 100 years about, or 50 years, so then it will become more dangerous, and I don't know what happened with the Earth. And
then you have developed a shelter.
Yeah, well, what will happen, what I explain in the film, is that these magnets, these small magnets we have inside the Earth, they look in all directions. So we have a pattern of magnets on the surface today. But if there is an influence from outside, especially from the sun, which is controlling our elementary magnets in one direction, we get a very strong magnetic field again. And then we have to look very close what happens. You see, we have this law of unipolar induction, which is fundamental, developed from Faraday. If this says if the electric field pointed from the sun, which is the cause for the solar wind, looks in one direction, if we are moving perpendicular to this, then we get perpendicular to both the magnetic field. And then everything is okay. If the North Pole is in the north and the South Pole in the south. But if nowadays our magnetic field is destroyed, so we nearly have nothing, very weak North Pole, very weak, it's moving around and not stable. If after such an event the the magnetic field has turned around. So at the end we would have the magnetic North Pole on the other side, a pole shift. This is dangerous for the Earth because you know what a magnet is doing. If the if it is looking in the wrong direction, it is turning around, moving sometimes, and then it's becoming stable in the opposite direction. So if the whole Earth is turning around because of such a pole shift, then we at the end look at the sky in the south. So what in Africa is seen today, this will be the sky of our future. And well, the turning of the Earth is in the same direction, so we don't have to turn our houses. We still have.
It will cause floods.
That's it. You see, the Earth is not a ball. It's flat on the poles because of the turning of the Earth. But if we have this effect that it is turning around, in this period, while we are turning around, the water is running to the poles and back again. And that means that there are no houses anymore. So our houses here, we were sitting today.
And that could have happened 7,000 years ago with the
10,000 years ago. It's more than 10,000, nearly 12,000 years ago. So it's not very often. Sometimes the Earth is turning, but turning back again, not all around. So this gives problems as well, and movement of the water, and because a lot of people are living next to the water, this gives problems. But you see, anyway, we are informed before. You know by the Bible that Noah has had half a year to produce a boat and to construct everything. So he was informed very early, because the only thing you need is a compass. That you know that now look at, oh, yet now it has changed. Oh, if it has changed, then you have time enough to consider everything you want to do.
Move to the Black Forest.
Yes, you may construct a boat or whatever you want. You see, you have time enough. There's enough time, but we have to pay attention, because the law of physics, if they are not fulfilled, then we get problems anyway. So it's always good to accept the law of physics and to work with them.
Yeah.
This
because
is my
you
message.
can't beat reality. Thank you very much, Professor Meyl. It was a great pleasure to listen to you and to learn from you.
Okay.